Yeah.
Good heavens, George. I wear it quite a lot.
I've collected jewellery since I was about 8. I started at jumble sales, worked up to junk shops and then 1 or 2 auctions.
What really drives you to buy this?
The beauty and the colour of stones and the fact that they have to go through so much effort to get the stones where
From
they
the
are
ground.
today, yes.
Exactly. The fascination that we have for these things is because they're things of natural beauty. I mean, this is a star sapphire,
Yes.
isn't it? And do you know how the star is achieved in the sapphire?
I believe it's a fault in the stone.
It's a sort of a fault in the stone. It's rather like the sheen on silk, and the 2 strands of silk cross one another, and as the light falls onto it, it's separated and turned into a star. It's a sort of greyish sapphire in a way, isn't it?
Yes.
But a very, very pleasing one. And I think the thing about precious stones is, and the deep fascination for mankind, is that they're completely unchanging, aren't they?
Yes.
And we know perfectly well that it's us that are the ephemeral things. On this table, this is sand and sugar, isn't it? The sand is the simulated jewellery, and the sugar, the sweetest of all, is the diamonds and the emeralds and the sapphires and the rubies. And here are 3 delicious grains of sugar, aren't there?
Yes.
And this scintillation, this return of light, is really quite inimitable, isn't it? And one does simply recognise it. But here is something that looks for all the world, it appears to be an emerald bead necklace with an emerald-cut emerald in the centre clasp. But it isn't, is it?
No, I would think it's synthetic.
It's one made in a furnace, not by God. What do you feel about that? Do you think there is a difference between a man-made one and a natural one?
Well, there obviously is from the point of view that nature made the original, but that has its own beauty and it's
Yes.
quite a nice stone to wear.
Which is your favourite?
My favourite, that one.
That one. Let's have a close look at that. The sapphire and diamond ring. The finest colour of sapphire is a cornflower blue, a cashmere sapphire with amazing velvety visual texture, which actually isn't in this one necessarily, because had it been so, it would have been worth £30,000–40,000 and more. And so a nuance of colour makes all the difference to value.
It reminds me of a summer sky.
Yes, well, I think that's completely poetic and marvellous. I don't really know how to value your collection. I think the simulated gems, which you're obviously fond of, are valued at no more than £10 or £15. And then, mixed in here, is a valuable ring, without doubt. A 3-stone diamond ring with what look to be perfectly pure and nice stones. And I suppose, conservatively, that must be sort of £6,000 or £7,000 and more, mustn't it?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So a collection measured in tens of thousands of pounds and tens of pounds. And it's all jewellery, it all lives under the same name, and it gives you pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had it for my 21st birthday from my grandfather.
So, family ring, going back the years,
Going
generations?
back probably only to the beginning of the 1900s, when it belonged to my step-grandfather.
Well, it's almost got the head of the ring is like a box. A pretty garnet in the middle there, isn't it? That purpley colour garnet. Looks a bit like a ruby, but I think, looking at this purple colour, it's going to be a garnet in a surround of tiny diamonds that form almost like a star. And then we've got enamel, which I must say, when I first thought I saw that, I thought that they were turquoise, but they're not. It's that sky blue colour.
Yeah.
So that combination of stones and colour was often used in Victorian jewellery.
Yes.
But there's something interesting about this ring, isn't there?
There is.
Because the whole thing is like a concertina. And there, instead of just having a ring,
A bracelet.
it's a lady's bracelet. So, I mean, it's beautiful as a ring, but as a bracelet, it is a dimension that is just fantastic, really. And they used to do this in the Victorian period. What date do you think it is?
Well, I think it's probably early Victorian, about 1840.
1845, 1850 would be about the latest I would put on it, and it's very much 1840. It's very pretty jewellery, I have to say. I mean, it sounds a slightly odd thing to say, but jewellery of that period was very feminine. I think it's very, very saleable indeed. I know you're not going to sell such a ring because, of course, it's a family ring, but
Yeah.
I think such a ring like that, because of its feature that you can do so many different things with it, means that buyers would be very excited to see one like this. And I think in auction, £1,000 to £1,500 for
Yes.
it, I would
Yeah.
think. They don't half sparkle, don't they, when you see
certainly
like
do,
look at
yeah.
that. thing. Anyway, I'm sorry, but tell me a bit more about the background of them.
Well, these rings belong to my mother, and when she died, they came to me.
Did she tell you where they come from at all?
No,
Any family background or anything?
I don't know the history of them at all, no, I don't know.
Because in many ways they're all different periods. This is a very typical band ring, probably made in about the 1970s. Look at the diamonds, because I don't know if you can see that they have rather grey, dull, blobby-looking centres to them. The reason is that they are a much more simple cut. They're called single-cut diamonds, and they lack the lustre of the far more complicated brilliant-cut diamonds. Now, this is a brilliant-cut diamond, and I think you can see the intense sparkle of that stone in comparison with these stones. So there's another feature. When you get a diamond that's a single cut, the value of it is considerably lower than it is for the full brilliant cut. So this 1970s gold band ring with straightforward single cut stones, if I was selling this in auction, I might expect to get, I don't know, maybe around about £300 for it. This one is a brilliant cut diamond that weighs around about 1.8 carats. It's a nice, bright, brilliant cut stone in a very pretty, fussy and quite complicated setting of platinum and gold. But the problem is with this stone, when I look at it through my lens, I can see that it's severely hampered by having a very nasty flaw at the side. And with these stones, they're valued according to how few the flaws are and how white the stone is. So if a diamond is white and completely clean, it's far more valuable than a stone that's a bit off colour and a bit flawed. This one is quite severely flawed. So it's probably worth in auction around about maybe £1,400, £1,500.
Really?
Yeah.
Good heavens.
And I would insure it for maybe around £3,000 possibly as a retail price.
Tell me, where's this ring come from?
My nan gave it to me, and I don't know anything else about it.
I don't think she wore it very much. It's in fantastic condition, isn't it? And look at it scintillating in the sun.
Yes.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. What date do you think it is? You don't know?
No.
It's made in about 1840. And the point about it is the design. It's in the form of a forget-me-not flower. And in the language of flowers, the forget-me-not stands for true love. And the ruby is for passion, and the diamonds are forever. So it's true love with enduring passion. You can't ask for more, can you?
Absolutely not.
And it's the sort of ring that any ring collector would be mad to get their hands on.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely mad, because the condition is wonderful. It's very poetic. It's a truly exciting, concentrated little jewel from the 19th century. And I think that it should be insured for £1,250.
Good Lord.
Happy?
Gosh, yes, I am very happy.
Love at a price.
Beautiful, isn't it, though?
It is
Lovely.
beautiful. Enjoy wearing
Thank you
it.
very much. Thank
Brilliant.
You.
My grandmother handed it down to me when she passed away a few years ago at the age of 102.
Goodness gracious me.
So-
Well, now look at that.
She left all this
Look at that.
for me as
Because
well.
here we have a veritable cabinet of curiosities. It's an extraordinary collection of Georgian and Victorian jewellery. Let's have a look at this one first, because this does catch my eye. And this is a Georgian gold Belcher link chain. And typically it's got a hand clasp terminating at the bottom. On the finger of the clasp is this little gem set ring. It's a beautiful little piece. There's another gold chain made out of spun gold. I mean, considering it was probably made in about 1825, 1830, you can see the technique, the sophistication that would have been made. Then there's some really delightful mourning rings. Now, the thing about mourning rings is, of course, when someone died, it was customary to commemorate the person by mounting a small lock of hair in a locket centre, surrounding it quite frequently with half pearls. Being mourning, the colour was black, always going to be black. And then at the back of the ring, we might find a small sort of engraving of the person's name, the date that they passed on. And then also you might find a tiny little locket compartment where there would be a small lock of hair. Do you wear them at all?
I have actually worn this little one. Sean and I got married in Winchester Guildhall last year in a dressed up in medieval costume, and I did actually wear
And that was the actual ring that you wore?
I did wear that one, yeah.
Let's just have a look at that one then, because it's quite a simple ring, really. It's a late Victorian gold ring with a sapphire in the middle, surrounded by a sort of posy of half pearls. So I assume then that apart from knowing it's come down the family, you've never actually had it valued before?
No.
Well, I think on the basis that a Georgian gold muff chain like this is a little shorter than the very long ones that you get, that by itself is probably worth something around £1,000. This fine mesh tubular chain necklace, that's probably worth around about £600 to £800. The rings, you've got the half hoop ring there, lovely diamonds, 5 graduated stones, that's worth about £800 to £1,000. The mourning rings are worth between £300 and £400 each. So from what looks like a fairly sort of straight Sheffield plate set, which is worth maybe no more than around about £300, you've got a lower tier drawer, which is probably worth £8,000.
God. Oh, I didn't realise that at all.
It really is a unique collection.
Goodness me.
I inherited it from my aunt, whose husband gave it to my aunt during their marriage. But I don't know the history of it apart from that.
It's an interesting cluster ring. When I first saw it, I thought to myself it's going to be something like a topaz or one of these brown stones.
Yes.
Sometimes you get things like brown sapphires.
Yes.
It's a diamond in the centre. And on this side we have another one in white. But the thing about this ring that's most interesting is this one, because this is a bluey green one. All diamond set, but all different colours. And from my point of view, seeing coloured diamonds, well, it always is very exciting because coloured diamonds are extremely rare. This one is almost a sort of yellowish brown colour. But this one is the one that's quite exciting because one of the rarest colours that you can find are blue, and even rarer is the colour green. The surrounding line of diamonds around the 3 principal stones is a different period from the 3 centre stones. I think it's certainly Victorian, this cluster, with this type of silver setting, this nipped-in setting here. But when we look at the 3 principal diamonds, we see that they're all claw-set stones. The diamonds themselves are cushion-shaped Victorian cut stones, and I think they were probably cut in maybe around about 1900 or 1905 at the very latest. As far as trying to value fancy diamonds is concerned, it is very, very difficult. There are so many subtle nuances of colour. You get greyish blue, bluish grey, greenish blue, bluish green, and what you have to do with them is to send them off to a laboratory where they will actually issue a certificate stating exactly what the colour is. Let's suppose that it comes back as being a natural, fancy green-blue diamond or blue-green diamond, and that they can say it with certainty, in which case I'm going to be very broad with my pricing here and say hopefully at least £2,500 to £3,000, but it could very well be worth £5,000 with all the right gradings.
Well, that's very good news. Thank you.
Well, this is a tiny, tiny little ring, isn't it? What
It is.
prompted you to bring it to us today?
Well, because I believe it's valuable.
Did you? And why?
Yeah.
What made you
well,
think that?
it says Lalit inside.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
And tell me what you know about Lalique.
Well, I know they did
It's French.
French, yes, and they do a lot of
jewellery, did
pottery as well.
Yes, glass later on,
glass,
yeah.
Well, that's where we realised that it could be valuable. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not only a rare thing, but it's a very beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is,
And
yes.
tell me, who gave it to you?
Old gentleman who lived next door. We made a lot of
He was on his own, left on his own, and we looked after him and so on. He was 94 years old.
And did he
Yes.
know about whatever?
I don't really
We
know.
didn't know it was Lalit until after he died.
I don't think he realised the value of it at all.
No. But what has to be said is that this is a complete little masterpiece of goldsmith's work. And it has to be said, too, that it's made by one of the towering geniuses of the Art Nouveau movement, René Lalique. And He just happens to be a genius who chose to work in jewellery and then moved on into glass. And this is a tiny expression of his work, but it's all there. Now tell me, what do you think about the screen material?
I don't know. Is it enamel?
It is enamel.
Yeah.
It's a very particular sort of enamel, which we call plique à jour enamel, which means applied to the day, which is another way of saying that this is an enamel without a background. And the point about Lalique is that he was returning to nature. His inspiration comes from plant life and from animal life.
Yeah.
And in order to achieve that, he used what was actually a Japanese technique in suggesting the veins in leaves and the veins in the wings of buzzing insects with pierced gold. And then he'd hold the enamel in suspension like a bubble. And it gives a little bit of naturalism, or more than a little bit of naturalism. Now, the reason it's tiny, of course, is that it's a ring, so this is not marks against it in any way at all, actually, that it is a tiny, tiny little work of art. People collect these things, and if it turned up in a sale, two collectors wanting it very badly, I think maybe 5,000, maybe 6,000 wouldn't be completely mad.
It was my great-grandfather's.
So how long ago would that be?
Maybe 1910, but we don't really know when he would have had it, but we think maybe around that date. And it's just been passed down through the family, and it now belongs to my brother.
And do you have any idea where it originated from?
We've just been told that it's a Brazilian yellow diamond, and apart from that, we don't know a thing.
Well, it's actually interesting you should say that it's Brazilian, because nowadays most people associate diamonds with southern Africa. But in fact, diamonds were originally found in India, and all the diamond mines were worked out about 1725. And then, very conveniently, around the same time, they found them in Brazil. And the Brazilian mines went on until they found diamonds in South Africa, which was not till pretty late in the 19th century. So it's very likely that this diamond did actually originate from Brazil.
And did they specifically find yellow diamonds in Brazil?
Well, they find white, yellow, all colours, because after white diamonds, the range goes from yellow to brown, and this is actually quite a good colour yellow. It's not a really strong, fancy, intense yellow. Also, the cutting's quite interesting because it's a 19th century cut. You'll see it's not round like most modern cut diamonds. It's more what's called cushion shape, TV screen shape, I would think. And also, if you look through the stone, you'll see that there's a slice off the bottom.
You can see
it's called
right
the culet, and that's something you don't get in a modern diamond either.
So do you think it's always been a ring?
No, I don't think it's always been a ring, because actually the stone is much older than the setting. And with diamonds, they tend to get unset and reset and unset and reset, and it happens all the time.
So what kind of dates the setting?
Well, the setting probably dates from around 1910, because it's platinum, and platinum's a great material for mounting jewellery because it's very hard. But they hardly used it at all because it's very difficult to solder until around 1900, when they improved their technology. It's quite a big stone. I got a little gadget here that sort of very roughly measures the size of diamonds, but it only goes up to 2.5 carats, and 2.5 carats goes nowhere near that. And also these stones are quite heavy because they cut them much deeper than modern stones. So I think that this stone probably weighs somewhere between 4 and 5 carats. It's quite sizable. So you don't actually have this insured or anything, your brother doesn't have it insured?
It's on the household contents insurance.
So you get £500 for it if it was stolen?
Something like that.
If it was a really strong yellow colour, it'd be worth a huge amount of money. But even with this pleasant yellow colour, weighing between 4 and 5 carats, this has got to be insured for, well, at least £12,000. Anything between 12 and 15,000, I would say.
That's quite a lot.
It's really a super ring.
My grandfather bought them for my grandmother over the years. And I think he must have bought them in London.
It's very tricky with jade. Issues with jade you have to bear in mind are colour, uniformity of colour through the stone, shape of the stone, size of course, patina. If you get a piece of jade that's very scratched, and you
Yeah.
get one that's very smooth and perfect, it's considerably more valuable for being a perfect stone than one that might have a few abrasions on it. But you know, when we look at these two, that's a piece of jade.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, as far as the age is concerned, the diamond setting is very 1925.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that that's the period for the ring itself. I ought to add one little caveat, which is these days jade is improved. They impregnate, they do all sorts of things to make them look slightly better than they are. The good news is, though, it's unlikely with a stone of that date. This one here, have you noticed it's got a slightly
offside.
wedge
Yes.
shape? It's
Yeah.
almost as if
It's
it's
not
been
quite
polished
perfect.
slightly off, and that does affect the interest a little.
Yeah.
Then you've got this splendid deco jade brooch, where I think they must have taken a couple of pieces of Chinese jade that have been carved, set them in little settings of diamonds, this flash, it's almost like a geometric bow, and then you've got these calibre black little hard stones in between, and this colour combination, the black, the white, the
Very
green,
fashionable,
was
wasn't it?
very deco.
Yeah.
Now, let me just have a look at these jade pieces, because these are a fantastic colour, aren't they? These are wonderful. Now one small anxiety I've got, and I'm sure you have noticed it, it's got a crack running all the way through it.
In fact, the mount's been made to hold it because it's got more claws on that side.
And they're very thin slices, aren't they?
Yeah.
These are the
Terribly
sort of
thin.
things that would have been done in China, and you know, you could wear them as clips for the ears or
Yes.
something, but these have been made into a brooch. And then finally, you've got this terrific, terrific Chinese jade carving, which by its quality, I mean, look at the
little
detail
bird,
here,
I
the
love
little
the
birds,
bird.
the piercing.
And what sort of a flower is that?
Well,
I
they're
mean, it's
usually
obviously a
things like
stylised
lotus flowers.
lotus.
They're usually lotus flowers, and you'd have all sorts of symbols.
And is this a pea, you know, a pod?
The pea pod is
yeah.
there, but what a fantastic thick slab
Yes.
of imperial jade. Well, that really is a staggering collection that you brought in. Moving on to the question of values, it's not easy. If that wasn't damaged,
Yeah.
it would be enormously commercial, but the damage does affect the price.
Yes, obviously.
I think that in that condition, with the crack across it, my instinct is that this is probably worth something around £4,000.
Yes.
This one here, with the wedge,
Yeah.
you know, I love the polish. It's on a 1925 bar with the diamonds on the shoulders. That one there, I think it has to be worth the same sort of money. This one here, I think, is the most beautiful carving, and it reminds me of one that I saw some years ago that was very similar, that I know in auction fetched something like £6,000 to £8,000.
Really? Gosh.
Then we move on to this one. And this one, I would want to do a little bit of work on it, just to be absolutely sure on this one. But I think this is probably £8,000 or £10,000.
I wear it quite a lot.
Well, I just think it's got so much going for it. The size,
It is
the
marvellous,
shape.
isn't it?
What a fantastic group of things. Fantastic.
Well, I
Thank
wish
you
my
very much.
grandfather could hear you say that because he obviously adored
Well,
it.
I'm absolutely thrilled. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.